And welcome back here to Adobe Live on a Friday morning, afternoon or evening, depending on where you're joining us. My name is Tim Möbest, and today I'm joined by the one and only Nick Liefhebber. Good morning, technically good afternoon.
For me.
Good afternoon, Nick. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And of course, welcome to everyone who's joining us in the chat today. Just like, let's see, Oliver and Sean and Peter and Stuart and Annika and Angus and Linda and Michelle and of course Nick. Who's that? Strange. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We do have a fantastic stream coming up for you in just a moment, but before we can dive right in, if you're watching this anywhere but on Behance, I'm afraid you're watching it in the wrong place. You have to come on over to behance.net/Adobe Live. I can put that link right on stream for you. Hang on. Boop. Behance.net/Adobe Live. That's where you want to join the chat, and that's where you can watch the stream. Right. So that's it from my end. And now I would like to just, Nick, for those in the chat who don't know who you are, like, tell us, who are you? And what do you do?
So I'm Nick Liefhebber. I'm a designer and illustrator from Utrecht, the Netherlands. I studied graphic design in art school. And I think you see my Adobe portfolio here. I started out doing a lot of graphic design, and next to that, I created illustrations for myself, not for a client. Mm-hmm. I still do a lot, like this project. I make a lot of screen prints, resale prints, a lot of printing stuff, and I create these worlds, strange worlds with abstract and figurative elements. And here you can see a bit how the process looks. It's really hands-on, and I like creating stuff like this because I was working behind a computer so much. And I like the combination of analog stuff and digital stuff. A lot of this is created by cutting shapes from paper, mm-hmm. and then digitalizing them in Illustrator and create collages from them.
I mean, and then that is such a crazy workflow. Starting analog, cutting it actually out with papers and scissors. Then do you just scan it in, or how do you digitize that?
I scan it in, and then I use Live Trace in Illustrator to create the shapes, vector shapes. And then it's easy to create digital compositions, collages with them. And I also create these worlds for clients, like this project for Stag Sleep Winery, which is a winery from Napa Valley, California, and they wanted to have these worlds showing where the wine was coming from. So I had the same workflow, but then I was drawing all the animals living in Napa Valley, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a bit what I do and where I'm coming from.
That is fantastic. And by the way, chat, if you are not following Nick already, just make sure to tap on the info tab right above the chat. And in there you can follow Nick and, of course, have a look at the portfolio. And if you also if you have some time, chat, do feel free to let us know which one is your favorite project of all of them. And maybe we can take a look at that one. And Stuart already says he's got a follow from me. Yes. All right. And of course, welcome everyone who just joined us in the chat. So let's give them a couple of minutes of time to decide if they want to see one project in particular. Why don't you tell us what is the plan for today?
Today I'll be showing you a bit. Should I start with my workflow showing in Illustrator? We can always go back to my portfolio.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So this is one of the works I made, and it's also a collage which I turned into a risograph print. I don't know if everybody knows that, but it's a little bit of photocopy machine printing in colors layer by layer.
Mm-hmm.
So this also started out as these graphic shapes I cut from paper. And here you can see then I end up with a library with all these shapes. And I just have a thought in my mind, and then I start cutting them out and scanning them and making a collection, a library of shapes.
So do you, when you create those shapes on paper, do you already have something in mind when doing them, or do you just randomly think like, oh, I could use this leaf somewhere, at some point, or do you already have a plan, a layout, let's say, of the final work?
I don't have a layout, but I do have a plan in terms of the subjects I want to use, of course. If it's for a client, like for the winery, I know I need certain animals or certain plants or that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When I work for myself, like this one, this started out, I was making Christmas cards, and I was thinking, what was the brightest star? And it was the meteorite wiping out all dinosaurs. So that kind of weird ideas can be the starting point. And then I just start cutting out dinosaurs like this, and certain plants of things that come to mind.
Do you use any reference for that? Because those are pretty cool dinosaurs, if I do say so. Do you have a reference for that, or do you just go?
It really is a combination of both. I sometimes have a reference, but nothing I create is really lifelike. It's all like, I always see it as icons. These are icons of dinosaurs, which I combine to create a more complex illustration. So it doesn't have to be really lifelike. It can come from my mind, and it doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if the dinosaur isn't 100% anatomically correct, I don't think people would mind. Because I mean, there's a giant meteor right above them.
Look at this one. It's actually kind of simple, and those feet are ridiculous, of course. But I think that's also a bit of the charm of the illustrations. Like, and I got it at a certain speed, and I don't want to do it slower and make it more detailed, but I think the right amount of roughness and complexity is kind of important for me.
Yeah, totally. Yes. And they are also saying in the chat, great stuff, all good stuff, great artwork. Not like the dinosaurs are going to complain, is it? Yeah, Oliver, right. And Daryl says, very Matisse-inspired work. Stuart says, Blue Point Brewing is an ace one. I'm pretty sure the project. And Annika is asking, do you cut these shapes by hand, or do you have a machine for that?
No, I cut them by hand. I have. Wow. I don't know if my video is...
Oh, hang on. I will make that bigger. There we go. Can you check? Yes. Wow.
And those are just cut by hand. I have a knife like this.
Ah, okay.
And small scissors. And I think I can't recreate it digitally. It's something... the limitations of the technique are a part of how the shapes turn out. So that's important to me. And sometimes I do draw, or I draw on my iPad the shapes in the Illustrator app and then send them to my desktop. But
it's not the same, is it?
The ideal situation for me, if I wanted to be like my work, I like to cut them for real.
I guess this also changes how you just create those shapes. Even just the resistance of the paper makes you draw certain things in a different way.
Yeah.
So I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
And Stuart
so
says
that's one limitation.
That's insane. Yeah. Stuart says, yeah.
Thanks.
Wow. In a good way. In a good way. You're insane. Lock him up. Okay. Right.
Another limitation for me is color. Like I have this screen printing and result printing techniques, and you're limited in the amount of layers. And this print is made in 4 colors. So these are the colors. I used an off-white because it's nicer to my eyes for the digital image. And I create all these colors I can layer them on top of each other and set it on multiply. Here you can see the colors you can get with these colors by printing them over each other. So of course I use the fluor pink, and together with a yellow it becomes a red, a blue and a yellow becomes green. So that's also something important in my work. And you can also if you make the color spot color, you can set the tint. So for example, I make this 50% and you can print it that way. And then you can get all these colors. Wow. The other nice thing about it is it becomes a cohesive color palette. Like for me, it feels very natural because all the tints are blends of only 4 colors. So that way you get a certain color palette.
Yeah, I do think it's really interesting because it is super colorful, but still it has a certain, like you said, a theme, overall theme to it.
Yeah. So then I start building these illustrations from multiple layers, of course, because I want to create different colors. So I make a composition, and then I just copy paste them in a different color and multiply it.
So you actually have the different basic colors as separate objects, and you lay them on top of each other with the multiply blending mode.
Yeah. Because if I'm going to create a screen print or result print, I need all the layers separately. That one is just one color.
Now that you say that, it makes absolute sense. Yes, of course. Yeah, because you have to separate the colors, otherwise the machine won't know how to use them. And
I will.
Daryl says, I imagine having the vector files set up on different layers is great for screen print. Yes, basically what we just said.
Yeah. Here you can see I turn those. This is what I have for reference for myself. For example, for a screen print. Then I create these black and white layers. Left is blue, middle is red, right is yellow. And that's just a select all blue colors and then fill it with a black. I don't know if that's clear.
Yep.
But here you can also see these are only printed 2 colors.
That's a really nice print. Wow.
Thanks. So this print, for example, is clean for my style in the sense it doesn't have any patterns, and patterns are also a big part of my work. For example, here.
How are you doing those patterns? Will we have a look at that, or?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see. I think I had them on my artboard. Yeah. Oh. 1 second. So these patterns, I just create a pattern in the way that for example, of course, the left side has to connect to the right side, the top side has to connect to the bottom side. And let's say if I'm just making a pattern like this blobby, swirly one, I just create these shapes. I put a line over it and use the Pathfinder tool in Illustrator, and you can separate those shapes with the line over it, and group them, and then you can place the shape above it. Like this is the top of the pattern, this is the bottom of the pattern.
That's clever.
And you can fill it with all kinds of elements. Do the same way for the left and the right side.
So those patterns, they are done in Illustrator. So no paper cutting out. I mean, that would probably take a while.
For example, these stars here are all paper cut, but of course it works the same way because those are just vector files because I vectorized them.
I wouldn't have expected that.
In Illustrator. Yeah. And then if you have this drawing with all the sides aligning, and of course the middle can be as crazy if you
perfect. Yep, that's it.
How do I?
You probably rotate the canvas.
Yeah, how do I reset it?
Hold down R maybe to rotate it again. No,
that's only here.
Let's see.
Here.
Shift.
I got it again.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
And then if you have this drawing, this and everything connects on all sides, I just put it in my swatches, drag it into my swatches, and then you have a pattern swatch. And then if you make a square, select the swatch, you fill it with a pattern. And I also, for example, these are also made from paper cut. These are brushes, which work the same way, only you have to connect left and right, and you have to have a corner piece. So I also drew this one. Let me bring up my brushes. And I can drag this into my brushes. Pattern brush. Okay. And then I can also give it a brush.
Very cool.
So here you see all these elements on the side. Yeah, are pattern brushes. These patterns are pattern swatches. And sometimes if I want to make variations on that, you can just expand those brushes and start editing the colors again, create variations, recolor it.
That's also super flexible. Looks like you can just get in there and customize everything you want to. If you ever feel
if you expand the brush,
Anika says you can also disable that rotate artboard feature if you don't use it, and you can do that in the preferences.
I might do that.
It's interesting. For ages, people have been asking for why can't you rotate the canvas in Illustrator? Now that you can, how can I disable that again?
Yeah, of course. Everybody has a different workflow.
Right. I assume for
I like it on a tablet or on a Cintiq or something, but when I'm working on a desktop like this, it's a bit less natural.
And Stuart says, I just need to quit my job and play every day. Yeah, I know. Wouldn't it be fun if you could do that for a living?
Yeah, well, I had a job. Once I had a job back in the day, and I was a graphic designer, which I also still love to do. And I just started creating this stuff because I wanted to make stuff I didn't have to explain to anybody, or I didn't have to say to anybody, I made this because of that. Because you have to if you create identities or logos or stuff like that. And now then I could just start creating ideas like what is the brightest Christmas star? It's the meteorite which wiped out all the dinosaurs. It doesn't really matter. And that way you can create without limitations and just do whatever you like. And of course I'm lucky as well that has been picked up on the internet, and clients are asking me to do the same. But I think it's important. Yeah,
I assume it's a scary decision going from
Yeah.
employed position to freelance. I mean, I just went the
Yeah.
other way around from freelance to employed. So,
No, definitely, and of course, I was younger with less responsibility, so I had the flexibility to make a little less money at the time. Yeah.
and also Stuart says, "Yep, you answer to no one, and you're free to go in any direction. So essentially, you are your own boss. But
yeah,
I mean, on the good side, you are your own boss. But on the other side, you are your own boss. So you have to make yourself work, and you have to earn everything on both sides.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But that's also like I said, if you create stuff you want to make, you do for yourself. You also, it takes less effort, less energy, and you it's easier to create. But of course, you can only do that if you have peace of mind and have some money to live.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky balance between the two.
Yeah, I think any freelancer can attest to that.
Yeah.
I don't know in the chat. Perhaps you can all let us know who is a freelancer, who's employed, or who has something else going on at the moment. Was looking for work. I mean, lots of people during these times are looking for work. So let us know. And Catherine Reston says, requires discipline, being your own boss, but you're the master of your own destiny, for better or for worse. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's hard. And then, to be honest, when I left art school, I started on my own, and it didn't work out. I couldn't get enough clients. And I started working at an agency, and then I started working for myself again. And the second time it worked out. It isn't always easy, of course.
And we have our first answers. Of course, so you're a freelancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm employed at the moment by Adobe. Duh. We have Catherine, who is an in-house brand design team, part of an in-house brand design team. Stuart is an in-house designer. We have someone who's Oliver, who's employed but not in the creative industry. That's also something I see quite often. People who are just interested in creativity and do this as a hobby. Daryl was freelancing for a while. Had my hat off to anyone doing it. I'm now employed. Welcome to the team. Sean is a full-time Behance streamer. Yes. Because other people can also stream on Behance. Everyone who has a Creative Cloud subscription can stream on their personal Behance, and some of them are even doing that. And Michelle is employed. Pelican Partners is the owner of a small design studio. So yeah, looks like we have all kinds of different people in here. And I looked away for 1 minute, and now you're looking at photos. Like, what's going on? What happened here?
Yeah, I wanted to say something because I try to show a little bit what I do and what I find interesting.
Yes.
And here
yes.
Is a project I did for to design these patterns for clothing. And because I was talking about patterns, you can also create a whole illustration the same way as I just showed. Let me see if I have it here. Yeah, and make it connecting on the bottom side, on the top side, left side, right side. That way you can make really complex patterns. This one is an all over print for a shirt. And what I like is if you apply your work to different surfaces and experiment that way, you also see your work from different angles. It has a different material, and the light shines on it differently than on a computer screen. And that way, I also get new ideas to create new stuff. And that's the same way, for example, for this project, which also somebody mentioned. I created this 6-pack first, and then I saw when you have it in your hands, it's really different, and small details can be interesting as well. So we decided to use the smaller illustration from the larger pattern on the can.
Really nice.
Yeah. So those are also different ways of looking at your own work.
For that packaging design, you provided the illustration, and they took care of like the rest of the layout of the can, I assume.
Yeah,
like
it's
lettering.
made by Bardo Industries. They
Oh, yeah.
are a design studio from New York, and they did a complete rebranding. And they asked a few illustrators to create packaging illustrations for every flavor as a different illustrator. So that was really fun, and they did a really good job at the rebranding.
Did they send you some of the cans at the end?
I didn't get the cans yet.
Oh, no.
So,
hopefully you can get some at some point.
But I know it was also difficult, I thought, because of COVID and sending liquids, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Also,
well, hopefully you
States
will get your hands on some of them at some point.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, and Stuart says there's a real push for this style of fabric design. Yes. And Catherine says, great surface and pattern work. Vectors are good for this design as they can be scaled up and down. Absolutely. And yeah, looks like they are saying, yes, lovely work. Looks like you will gain some followers today. So if you haven't followed Nick already, do make sure to click on the info tab above the chat and click on follow. So, wow.
The same way of working, of course. It's also a more complicated illustration created as a repeatable pattern, and inside the pattern are patterns again on the separate shapes. So that's always. I like to get lost in this depth and layering of elements. For example, when I also wanted to show you can draw patterns. But what I also do a lot is create masks. And here you see these funny characters. And instead of filling them with a pattern, I fill them with a shape. Just
right on. Yeah.
Like that. Of course, you can be as creative as you want. And this is also what I find funny is when you, for example, cut out this kind of shapes, you have leftover elements from your paper, like this one. You see a little part of a hand, little part of leaves. And that's also a way, something you get from working analog. You have these accidents or leftover stuff or little sketches, which I then use in the final image and to create these compositions. Yeah.
I love the idea of having just shapes inside of shapes. Of course, now we just need to have shapes inside of shapes inside of shapes. And that's the next step, I think. And Stuart is asking a question. Oh, sorry.
No.
Sorry. Stuart is asking a question. Where does Nick get his inspiration? I mean, that's the question of the question.
Yeah. No, I have a lot of inspirations. For example, somebody mentioned Matisse, but that's just because he also cut from paper. But there are also a lot of other artists who did that as well. You have a few classic Dutch designers like Jan Bons, Piet Zwart, who also did this. I also get my inspiration from other printmaking artists. There's also the history of Japanese printmaking, which I really like. Polished poster making from the 60s and 70s, I think, has some really interesting stuff. But of course, I also look around, but I try to look at as many different places as possible, not just illustrators, but also art, photography, that kind of stuff. I'm looking around here. I don't have it lying around here, but doesn't matter. I also have a lot of art books, small publications. A lot of artists create small booklets, which I see on their Behance or Instagram, and then I buy them. And a lot of stuff. I also had a really fun book. I don't know if people see it.
Hang on.
But it's somebody somebody collected all manhole covers. Do you say manhole covers?
Yeah.
Yeah, from the drain
Interesting.
in Japan, and in Japan they have all these really awesome designed covers, which of course is also very graphical because you have to make it in iron. But that kind of stuff I really like, and I'm trying to find it in different places.
Wow.
I think it's I don't know if people can read it. It's not expensive, and
all right,
it's a really fun booklet.
Very cool. Christmas present for you. There we are. And Jack is joining us. Hi, Jack. And she says, "Oh my God, dinosaurs!" Yes.
Yeah, I can. It's a part of a bigger project, which I also have on my hands, I guess. Because when I'm working with these shapes, you have a lot of shapes lying around, and I usually work in a series of illustrations or prints. So I have this big collection of illustrations of shapes, and then I start to create different compositions from them. So you also saw, for example, the dinosaur over there. Let me get to that. Of course, I'm lost in my own file. This is this one. And then I have, for example, this shape. And this is another one. But so I work on all these different illustrations at the same time.
That is insane. And Jack also says, "Oh, I love these colors." And yes, Jack, you should totally watch the replay of the stream because Nick actually explained how you can get these colors.
And of course, these colors of the printed stuff are always different than the digital colors. But indeed, I explained how to get these cohesive palettes of colors matching well together. Yeah.
And Jack asks, sorry I'm late to the party if this has already been asked. Do you screen print these or reso print?
Actually, I do both. Like these are screen printed, like you can see here. This is a work in progress where on the right side only 2 colors are printed. The left side 3 colors are printed. And but like the way I build my images are the same way, because you have to think in color separation and working with limited amount of colors.
Right. Okay, we have about 30 minutes left. So just as a time update. And Daryl says, I did a paper cutting workshop during lockdown. I recommend buying color paper and cutting out shapes. Do you use any special paper for your cutouts or just normal colored or black paper?
I use black paper for these digital stuff, but of course I also sometimes I create complete analog collages, and then I use, sometimes I paint on paper, or I use colored paper, whatever I can find. But for most my digital work or for clients, I use or black paper or I paint it digitally.
Right on. And Jack says, no, okay, I will just watch the replay. Yes. That's why we have the replays. But if you happen to scrub back on the live player, just don't forget to go back to the live section. And Dara says it was a good, fun afternoon. Yes, I can imagine. The workshop, that is.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And
where did he follow the workshop?
Sorry?
Where did he follow the workshop?
I don't know. Just said that.
Maybe I can answer.
Yeah, Darren, let us know. What is most likely an online course, since it was during lockdown, or maybe it wasn't. Who knows?
Of course. And in the meantime, I'm just creating something the way I work. I like you can see, I'm just putting elements together. It's as easy as that. And if anybody has any questions, of course, let me know.
I mean, maybe it's fair to give you some time to actually get some work done without getting interrupted constantly.
Oh no, I don't have a plan.
Okay. Do you
what I want to show here, so I can answer questions and.
Okay. So when you're working, do you listen to music or podcasts, or do you work in silence? What's like your preference?
I always listen to music. I get distracted if I listen to a podcast because you have to follow the words.
Yeah, right. Otherwise, you do the patented Tim Möbers listening technique. You listen to the podcast for half an hour, then suddenly think, I haven't listened to a single word what they said. Then you rewind and then repeat the same thing again. You listen again and like, hang on, what were they saying? And then if you rewind, yeah, that's how I do it.
It's also a way of doing it. Also a little bit, but I usually listen to a little bit of background music here.
I mean, it has to be. I mean, the choice of background music, it's key. Right, you can't just have any old background music. It has to be the right kind. What do you have any special genre you like to listen to?
Really listen to a lot of music. I do listen to a lot of experimental music.
Nice.
Electronic music, but also bands. It's hard to say. I also listen to a lot of mixes on Mixcloud.
All right. Yeah, pretty much anything. So anything that doesn't destroy your speaker.
Yeah.
Or eardrums. And good question from Sean in the chat. How is Nick changing colors so fast?
Well, I think I have my swatches here. You see that window.
Yeah.
And I just select the elements. Here I have this little leaf, and I just click the colors.
Easy.
I think it's just I do it so often, I might be faster than if you're starting out.
Yeah, right. I mean, I happen to know that Sean just got Illustrator a couple of weeks ago, so yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I also, like I said, I don't have a sketch, and I just work on the go and change everything, also the colors. So it isn't. It's all a little bit experimented. See how it works together. Yeah.
So it says, is he using the eyedropper? That is fast. No, apparently not. And Sean calling out the noob. Thanks, Tim. Yeah. Whatever.
Another way I create patterns is by using the symbol sprayer tool. Like for example, these dots, you can create symbols. You have this window with symbols.
Oh, now
and you can drag.
Stuff.
You can draw anything. I do a simple dot here and put it in the symbol pane. Just click OK, doesn't really matter. And then I use the spray can, select the symbol, and then you can spray all these elements. And if you select Object Expand, they become editable. And that way you have a little more unpredictable placement of all these elements, and then you can, with your white arrow, you can make it perfect like you want. But it's an easy way to fill certain areas with shapes you have.
Yeah, really cool way. And of course, I haven't used that tool a lot, so I only know anecdotal evidence. But I think you can also move the symbols around when they're still in editing mode. You can warp them, rotate, but I'm not quite 100% sure if that's...
It's probably you can do a lot more than I can do as well. I always learn new stuff all the time. So
where is the symbol sprayer tool again? Can you just show that? Perhaps if you if you long press on that tool. Yep, there we are. So symbol shifter, symbol scruncher, sizer, spinner, stainer, screener, and styler tool, whatever those are. So you can do a lot more with that. And you can
here we can learn together.
See, that's nice.
Symbol shifter. Not it, I think.
Just move them around, probably. Yeah, there we are.
Yeah, but you also place them differently. Oh, that's fun. I'm learning something from you instead of the other way around.
You learned something that even I didn't know. Welcome to Adobe Live. So yeah,
I'm going to use this.
Right? It's so cool. Yeah. I can already imagine. Of course, you don't have to use ellipses for that. You can use any shape you want.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It was for an example, but
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
And the third way I create patterns or surfaces is like just I have my black paper.
Yeah.
And I draw with a white marker on it, all these shapes, and then I cut them out. And if you vectorize them, it's just like you cut out all the white, everything you drew in white.
I guess you could also draw with a black marker on a white paper, and it would essentially do the same.
Yeah. So but then you have to use black paper on the background because you need the separation of the element.
Or you just leave the scanner open.
Might work as well.
But yeah, of course. I know what you mean. And Kath is saying, don't forget the symbols in the glyphs panel as well. Apparently there are more symbols in there. Not sure entirely. I think it's under window glyphs.
Oh yeah, of course you have a lot of symbols in the. Is it also where is it in type?
I'm not entirely. Oh, there we are. Type glyphs. Okay.
Yeah, of course you can use every symbol or from a font or.
Well, that's a good point. Some of the Adobe fonts, they have really cool flourishes and symbols and shapes inside the fonts that you normally wouldn't see in there, like hidden somewhere very the last section of the glyphs panel. So, yeah, totally. And you can outline.
I think that it just has to be vector, right?
I think so. As long as you convert it to symbol, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And I can see there's some typography in there as well in some of your artwork. Do you also do the typography, or would that be done by someone else?
No, that's my background as a Let Me Get a project, which is I also, of course, I started as a graphic designer, and I still use a lot of the things. It's just I'm two things I do at the same time. For example, I designed this font as well.
Nice.
And I did typography. So designing fonts is also something I still do.
Okay.
I'm scrolling too fast.
And that probably explains how you learned all the screen printing and everything like that. Because people were asking in the chat, like, how did you learn all that screen printing and risograph knowledge? Do you just know this? Have you learned them from someone?
There is a screen printing place. I actually have my studio connected to a screen printing place right now, so it's a bit of a luxury position. But when I started, of course, I didn't have my studio connected to it. And I just started going there because I liked the technique, and you could rent a part of a day and just work there. And all the first screen prints were simpler, and I just learned by doing. This is kind of an alt screen. Oh, now I did something.
And Stuart says, the man has skills. Yes.
Thanks. But I just started learning by. I just learned by doing it. I think I learned myself illustrating, so I didn't study it.
Mhm.
I learned myself printing by asking people questions, and figuring it out.
I mean, that's how you learn. Just see what works, see what doesn't, break everything and try to fix it again.
Yeah.
Lovely.
It's also, I think that experimentation and also doing your own thing without following rules or for example, specific how-to guides or something.
Yeah.
If you just start creating and then making stuff, and then if it doesn't work for you and you don't know how to do something, just look it up.
I mean,
that way you get a more unique image, I think. Yeah.
How-to guides and tutorials are great if you want to learn how to technically do something, like the technique.
Yeah, of course.
Like tools, Illustrator or whatever. But for real art, of course, it's great if you can do your own thing. And Stuart is asking, what is his print run of average screen prints? So how many do you usually do?
It really depends on it. Sometimes it's between 10 and 50 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But then sometimes I also once did 100, but usually around 20. Yeah, really depends. Right. Or if it's for a client or for myself.
Wow, these pins are really cool.
Clicked in my way already.
Oh, well. Replay. Time for the replay.
Yeah. Okay. And also wanted to show how all these patterns and all these symbols, like I said, my images are like a collection of symbols, and this is for a festival, and the inspiration was like a Persian tapestry, and I tried to recreate the same vibe in my own visual style, because Persian tapestries are inspired by gardens and all the layers around it with flower beds and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it really, when you have all these vector images, you can use them for the branding for a festival. You can easily move them around and create a beer label and treat the typography in the same way by moving around the elements like the same graphic shapes, like the icons. You can move them around easily and make beer coasters like this, for example, or a real Persian rug.
Of course, yeah.
Of course. Or for when you're creating stuff for in 3D space.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a bonus of working in these little vector shapes, I think, or vector illustrations, because they're a lot more flexible than
I can imagine.
Pixel. And that's also a big plus for me, and why I work the way I do, like collages of graphic shapes and create campaigns with them for clients.
Have you ever thought of animating any of your work, or has that ever been done?
It has been done, and I do myself as well. I have a nice animation somebody else made, because of course it's a lot of work, and for me, I love to animate, but I also I also don't always have the time for it, so I love to work with animators, and I will play this one.
Wow.
I don't know, was it really...
I mean, people can watch that on your...
Stuttering? Yeah.
People can watch it on
if they go to my Behance.
Which project was that? The winery one?
Yeah, the winery one. It's on the top row.
And Sean is asking, do you use After Effects for that? Or
Yeah. This was made by somebody else, but I also create animations in After Effects. Let me see.
Now I have a question. Is there something you don't do? Apparently you do everything. Wow. Really, really cool stuff. Let me tell you. We have about 10 minutes, just so you know. Yeah. So if you want to go back into Illustrator, or if you want to keep looking through the projects, about 10 minutes.
I think if there's somebody who has a question or want to see how I do something, I can show that.
I mean, I would just love to keep watching you while you work in Illustrator, if you ask me. I'm totally fine with that. Because I'm pretty sure we will stumble across more techniques.
Yeah, of course, definitely. Let me create one. Yeah.
Those cutout shapes, these are triangular-ish things that remove, like if you go back to the big ones, to the big artwork. Yeah, at the top, that cut into the artwork. These are sort of cutouts.
This?
Yeah, exactly. Is it?
Yeah,
what's that?
What I like to do is, okay, so the way I try to add depth to my illustrations is because I don't use shading, everything is flat.
Yeah.
I use overlapping shapes a lot. So these are just white shapes I overlaid on top of the patterns. But I do that because, of course, then you get a certain feel of it's cut out or it's damaged or something like that. But also it looks like something is going behind those elements. And that's also, I use a lot with, for example, I have these plants here, but it would really look really buzzy if I just put them over the other shapes. So I have all these colors already, I'm working in my composition, and then I decide I want to place this plant here. But to make it pop out, I draw something behind it. It can be an abstract shape or a rough shape. I don't know if you see it on the stream, but I'm drawing right now. Okay, quick. Then I make it a color. I move it to the back. You can do it in arrange, object arrange, move it to the back.
Yeah. Or use a shortcut.
Select them both, or use a shortcut like I usually do, but I guess there's somebody who isn't working as long in Illustrator anymore yet. So then I have this shape behind it, and it makes the plant popping out. You see what it is, and it adds a bit of depth, in my opinion, to the image. And that's also like, for example, here you have these little dinosaurs. And it looked messy if I didn't have, and then I decided to draw, too busy. Then I decided, okay, I want these heads to pop out, and I just drew the shapes behind those heads. Just like, for example, if you have medieval paintings, you sometimes have this, I don't know how you call it.
Yeah.
But it also focuses your eye on a certain element. With those medieval paintings, it were saints, but here it's dinosaurs.
Absolutely.
And also in this part of it, I want to make certain areas pop out and add a little bit of depth by adding these abstract leaf shapes, adding a dinosaur on top of the image. So that way I always try to add these layers and this depth.
Now that you say that, like you drew the shapes behind this, suddenly I notice every single one of them. Like, oh, yes, of course, behind the dinosaurs, behind the other ones. Now immediately see, yes, but before that, you didn't really question that. It's just, it looks great. But now that you say it pops. And we do have 2 more questions in the chat.
Yeah.
And I also have one. First of all, Kath asks, do you use a Wacom and a pen, or do you use a mouse, trackpad?
I use a Wacom without the screen.
Okay.
I use my iPad, which I use. Like I said, I draw in Illustrator on the iPad and send those shapes to the desktop. And of course, I use my my scanner, and I cut out the paper shapes. So it's a combination of a bunch of tools. But illustrations like these, I start with cutting out the paper shapes, scanning them, adding elements I drew on my iPad, and bringing them all together on the desktop using my Wacom.
Very
normal Wacom.
Yeah. And oh yes, could Nick show some of his masking techniques if time? Yeah, how do you mask that?
I'm not really sure if I get what you're saying, but
I think he's talking about the dinosaur with the shapes you had, like the shapes you added instead of the pattern. I think that's what Angus means. Otherwise, Angus, let us know what you mean, and we can come back to that question. I think so. Yes.
Yeah, so here it's a quite simple technique because I just take two different shapes. For example, I have this beautiful human, and you can just make it whatever you want. And I have this leaf, and I place it on the human. I send it to the back and select them both. And then the shortcut is Command 7. And then you have that shape. Then I often want those fill color and the shape separately. So I copy the base image, I mask it, and I paste the base image behind it. So I can change it easily. And when you use the white arrow, you can still, these are actually two, you can still move this one around. I can give it a different color. And in transparency, you can multiply it. And this is also, again, how you get a nice coherent color palette.
And Angus says, yes, that was the thing he wanted to know. And he says, great, thank you. Yeah. And the last question from Mervyn, what is the canvas size that you use? I assume for the final artwork, because the real canvas, of course, is much bigger than just the final artwork. Do you have a specific size for that, or perhaps the aspect ratio? What's the one you use?
That really depends. This is, for example, for a Riso print. This is the Riso printed, when I have Riso printed it. Mm-hmm. And that's A3 size, so that's 420 by 297 millimeters. But I also, of course, have these screen prints like you see behind me. It's 1 meter by 70 centimeters. It really depends. And of course, in vector, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
How big it is. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And I like to use all the space around it. Like I have my artboards. Usually I have a bunch of them, and I have all the crap around it. I move around, create different compositions, take something from here, from there.
Lovely.
Like I said, I like to create libraries or assets I can use in my image.
Do you sometimes use them again somewhere in other illustrations? Those libraries?
I prefer to not use them again. Yeah. Because if you, like for example, if I have this swirly stroke around my image, if I make it again, it will definitely look differently, and it will evolve over time if I did it 100 times. Yeah. And I don't want it to become a trick too much. So I think when I look at my first screen prints and Riso prints and compare them to what I make now, it's really differently, but it's also because I always made everything new again, I think. Sometimes I reuse patterns, but most often I make everything new.
Nice. Okay, then we have one last question and then we are done for today. And I'm pretty sure we answered that one already, so perhaps you can just give a short answer. Do you sketch the composition roughly beforehand, or do you go straight in and see what happens when you do your illustrations?
The way I sketch, maybe it's interesting to say, is I make these libraries of all these separate elements which are connected to the concept. And then I just start creating really quick compositions in Illustrator like this. And those are my sketches, but I don't have pencil sketches or classic way of sketches. And it's also funny because when you're working for a client and they not always know this could end up in the final artwork and might think, oh, that's a sketch thing. But in the end, when it's all together, they're always happy, and it's I'm as well, which is important.
All right. Okay. And with that, we are pretty much finished on the nose. It's exactly 1 or 2, I guess, in our time zone. So I will go back to our big screen. There you go. And first of all, thank you so much for all this knowledge, this information, and this inspiration for everyone in the chat. It was really great seeing how you work, and even I learned some things today, which is always nice. They are saying, wow, that was great. Thanks, Tim and Nick and Tim. Truly inspirational work. Thanks. Great stream. Thanks, Tim and Nick. Thank you for the stream. Was a lot in there. Yes, I totally agree. I'm really inspired. Now I want to get in and actually, bring up the papers and cut out something, but I will probably not do that because I really like working digital. Anyway, so I have to briefly talk about what's going on next week, because while this is the last stream for today, at least in the UK, we do have more streams in the US later today, but we do have a wonderful lineup for next week, and we're starting with David Oku on Monday. He's an illustrator, and it will be also very colorful and very fun, and it's going to be in Illustrator 2. On Wednesday we will have a stream all about comic pages, and this will be with David Cousins. And on Friday, wow, it's another illustration week. All right, I guess if you like illustration, be sure to tune in. And on Friday, Rachel Presky will be back, and it will be all about designing a mural for her new office. So, if you like illustration, make sure to tune in. And that's it from us here today. Anything you want to say before we close the stream, Nick?
No, just it was nice talking with you. And if anybody has a question, feel free to send it on Instagram or Behance. And,
right, Instagram is
I hope you
right there below you.
It was nice talking to you, so thanks.
All right. And thank you for watching, everyone at home. We will see you again on Monday. And until then, don't forget to join the Discord. We do have a Discord where we can chat even off stream. And until then, have a wonderful rest of your day and a nice weekend. See you soon, everybody. Bye. Outro, come on. There we are.